And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Fund Manager is a game about the stock market from Korea, although the game is completely in English, not necessarily always the best English, but it's at least understandable English. It's a light stock market game, and I think it's a decent game, but it has some flaws in it. One is that it requires paper and pencil to keep track of stocks, which is just a little unelegant, I suppose. And there's some interesting ideas. There's vast swings of luck in the game, but it's still a lot of fun. Let's look at the basic premise of the game. Here's the stock price chart, which is going to be used for much of the game. And on it has the four different stocks: the blue Motors, green heavy industry, orange bank, and purple venture co. And they will go up and down in price. As you can see, some of them, for example, the green heavy industry can go the highest. It has $34 at its per share at its highest level, and they can go up and down. And there's also a marker here on the side to keep track of the 8 rounds in a game. This is the board of the game, and there's only actually one piece that's going to go around the board, and when it passes the start, or when it gets to the start, that's basically when a round is over. Each player has, in the 4-player game anyway, they have 3 tokens in front of them, a 1, 2, or 3. On your turn, you simply turn over the token and move the piece that far, and then you can do whatever the space is that you've landed on. It's an interesting mechanic, better than rolling a die. Gives you some options, although when you get to your last number, of course, your options are much less limited. What do the different spaces do? Many of them are simply trade spaces in which you can buy or sell stocks. That chart that I showed you previously is what you use to determine the price, and then you keep track of the stock on a portfolio sheet that each player has, and you buy a certain amount of shares. There's only 300 shares of each stock allowed in the game, and this is what I mean when I'm talking about how I'm a little... I just don't really like the way this works out, because you have to sit around and look at everyone's sheets to see how many stocks there are of that price, and figuring out how much the stocks cost, multiplying it, and it just seems a little... I'm a little unhappy with how that game works out. I wish there were chips you could take of the stock or something. But you can buy or sell shares whenever you land on the trade space. Other spaces give you just basically some market news, and you turn these over, and these will increase or decrease different stocks. And it's basically just a roll of the luck, in a sense. Like, for example, this one helps out the orange company. Others will hurt companies. Every once in a while, they'll let you choose a company. But more importantly, and the cards I think are more interesting, there's confidential spaces. When you land on them, you turn over a card, and it's a confidential card, and it gives you something that may or may not happen. For example, the card that I'm showing you here has a 30% chance of happening that the Blue Motors company is going to have a strike. Now, when you draw this card, you can pay $50 and keep it. And at the end of the round, when the start marker goes all the way back to start and payday, you can you play this card. But if you don't like the card, if you don't want to buy it, you put it down. But again, this card only has a 30% chance of reliability. You roll a die, and it may or may not happen. And I really like how that comes into the game, where you have these stock tips, these inside tips as it are, but they may or may not pan out. Other than that, there's some chances on the board for the prices to go up or down. There's a chance to make a blue chip stock, which will make it go up higher if it increases in price. But basically, most of the stock prices are affected by these fund manager cards, which are fairly random, and these confidential cards, which are a little bit less random, but still, who knows what's going to happen. Sadly, money is, yet again, paper money. I guess people like it. It just drives me nuts. But in this kind of game, I guess it's nice to have a big wad of cash laying around. The game is fun, and it's kind of, do I buy stocks here? When do I sell them? I hope my price goes up. But a lot of people are not going to like it because there's just a bit too much randomness in it. You can put all your money into one stock that seems to be going up, and in a couple cards, the whole thing comes crashing down, and you lose all your money. So, while I think the game idea is nice, and it's light, and it doesn't last too long, although 8 rounds might be best played with just 4 or 5 rounds, rather than 8 complete rounds, and I guess you could adjust that to whatever you wanted. But still, it just doesn't seem to have a whole lot of meat behind it, and the writing down the information, I'm going to have to say give this one a pass. Not necessarily because it's bad. I mean, if you get it for free, hey, go ahead and play it. You'll have fun. But because I think there's some other stock market games that do the same kind of thing, but a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier to play.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.